Welcome back to our channel. Today we have an exciting topic to discuss, and that will be cross-site scripting, commonly known as XSS. So XSS is a vulnerability that affects many websites and web applications. It basically allows attackers to inject malicious code into web pages, and therefore you're attacking the web browser of a victim, right? So you're executing client-side JavaScript, and XSS is one of the most common client-side attack when it comes to web application. So today we're going to see some example of cross-site scripting attacks, and we're also going to discuss its type, right? So basically the definition of XSS can be like XSS occurs when an attacker injects malicious JavaScript code into a website or web application. When the other users visit that affected page, their browser executes that injected JavaScript code, and then the attacker can take over their account or do something like that. Basically, whatever the JavaScript they wrote will be executed, right? So yeah, types of XSS. So the first and most common type of XSS is stored XSS. When you store JavaScript payload into a web application and a victim visits it, this will be called as a stored XSS. Then we have reflected XSS. So in reflected XSS, user interaction is basically required. For example, let's say you're unable to store the payload, but you're sending a URL, or like the payload lies into the URL, or let's assume like it's a post-based XSS. So your payload is not getting stored on the web application or on the database. This is known as reflected XSS because your payload is not getting stored anywhere. So yeah, it's just a reflection. So whenever you see any kind of input getting reflected, you must check for reflected XSS. And whenever you see your data being stored somewhere, you can check for stored XSS. Third type is DOM-based XSS. So unlike stored and reflected XSS, DOM-based XSS do not rely on server-side vulnerabilities. Instead, it exploits client-side vulnerabilities. So in an HTML page, there's a document object model that is also known as DOM. In DOM-based XSS, malicious code of JavaScript is injected into the DOM and executed by the victim's browser. So for example, if a client-side code is manipulating some kind of user input and you're able to inject there, so yeah, that would be a very nice example of DOM-based XSS. So in bug bounties, you might have heard some terms, that is like for stored XSS, maybe you might have heard of blind XSS. So what is blind XSS? Blind XSS is nothing but it's a type of stored XSS where you are unable to see your data getting stored or reflected. But yeah, because it's stored and somewhere on the backend, on the logging, it can be anything basically. So when a person clicks there and sees the data you have stored, and it gets executed because it's stored there. So yeah, blind XSS can be called as a type of stored XSS. Then we have reflected XSS, DOM-based XSS. Yeah. So after this, you might have heard one more type for this, like self XSS. So self XSS can be stored or reflected as well. So basically, a self XSS is when you're unable to create any kind of impact on an XSS, right? So you can see the JavaScript getting executed, but you are unable to send that payload to someone, which will so you are unable to exploit the XSS because you are unable to store the payload, or you are also unable to send that payload to someone else. So very basic type of self XSS can be found in host headers. So because you are able to manipulate the HTTP host header in the request, but you can't do the same with other users' requests, right? You are unable to change the HTTP header. So header-based XSS are also known as self-XSS as well. But yeah, self-XSS can be stored as well. Like It's just basically that you're unable to share that payload and attack some other victim. You are only able to target yourself. So yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to types of XSS. I think I've described pretty much everything about it. Then there are XSS that are done through prototype pollution, but yeah, that's a topic for some other time. So let's see the example of each type of XSS. So yeah, reflected XSS into HTML context with nothing encoded. Let's do this lab. This will clear our reflected XSS topic. So you open this lab, you click access the lab. Yeah, so as you can see, this is the lab of reflected XSS into HTML context, nothing encoded, right? So you can see this is a web application here. You can click anywhere and like check it out. So first of all, for finding any kind of reflected XSS or most probably any kind of XSS, you'll have to see what's happening with the input and where is it getting reflected. So you are seeing the search feature. You'll just enter test here, and once you enter test, you're seeing that in the URL get parameter, that is get parameter search, the test is going, right? So because there is test, you can edit this to testing. Best practice for testing reflected XSS is, first, what I like to do is add some unmalicious, like some very simple HTML code here, and see if it's getting executed, right? So as you can see, this is getting executed here, right? And you can right click on this input. So a lot of people ask me why XSS is not getting executed, and I always tell them, like, wherever you are seeing the input, just highlight it, right click and inspect the element, right click, edit as HTML, and then see what's getting filtered and what's not getting filtered. A lot of time the input is getting filtered and people just don't get it, right? They assume that they are seeing the HTML code, but it's not getting executed. So that's why it's not getting executed, because it's getting filtered. Right now in our case, nothing is getting filtered, hopefully, so this will not take us long. Now here is nothing is getting encoded, nothing is getting filtered. You'll just use a simple payload, that is script alert document.cookie, and then just close the script tag and you enter it. And as you can see, our cookie is blank, but yeah, it got executed, right? And yeah, so this is it for reflected XSS. Now let's talk about stored XSS into HTML context where nothing is encoded. Cool. So these are very basic labs. Cool. Let's start. Now we're solving stored XSS lab. As far as I told you, just like I told you before, in stored XSS, your payload needs to be stored somewhere, and most probably it's the comment feature here. Your payload will be stored, right? And so let's open this quickly on Burpsuit. Yeah, let's open Professional, and okay, use Burp defaults. Just start it. Click on proxy, click on open browser, open this lab, and yeah, okay, so Dominator and other things are coming up. Yeah, so once you open this lab here in Burpsuit, you'll be able to see all the requests that are going through, and I see proxy. Now we'll click on any kind of comment here, like this is the post ID, I'm already viewing the post. Now I'll just use script alert document dot cookie, just close the script tag, test a@z.com, xyz.com. Hopefully this would work. So keep in mind, we are testing the comment parameter. And okay, so yeah, once you send the post request, your payload is getting stored as a comment. The lab is solved. Now let's see it in action. How is it getting executed? what was the post ID. So yeah, this is getting executed here because when we created a comment, it got stored here. And so if we want to exploit it, we'll just copy this link, we'll send it to a victim saying, hey guys, check this out, like guys, check this out. You'll send this to victim, and his cookies will be alerted in this case because we weren't creative with our payload. But we can steal his cookies, which potentially means if you are able to steal a victim's cookie, you will be able to take over his account. So you'll be able to log into his account without even requiring his password. How cool is that? And the best part is, once you are able to do that, it also avoids any kind of 2FA authentication or 2FA authorization, right? So even if there is a 2FA, that person has set up a 2FA, but his cookies have been leaked thanks to the XSS that you have used to steal his cookies with, you'll be able to log in to his account without anything. Now we have done the second part as well, that is reflected XSS. As you can see, when we made the comment, this was the request that posted the comment, and yeah, here the request was going, here was our payload. You could have edited the payload, and all thanks to no client-side validation or like no server-side validation there. So I don't even need to use burp, like it wasn't even required to use burp to solve this. And yeah, I also didn't use the burp anyway. So like now let's try DOM XSS, right? So yeah, let's do this lab only, DOM basic one. Copy this, use burp shoot because I don't know why we are using it. Yeah, I'll also show you guys how you can like automate the DOM stuff. So yeah, basically what you want to do is, while testing for XSS, you should be familiar with browser dev console and how your input is getting processed anywhere, right? So it's saying DOM XSS in document.write using source location.search, right? So once you check out where the input can be, where it's going, so you'll just open inspect element and just check out what's happening with the input, right? So here there is like, it's a search result, but yeah, now the lab says in document.write using source location.search. Right now it's using it, but no, I don't think here we're gonna find anything. But still, to check it more clearly, you can try to use some payloads, check out the console if it is giving us some errors. And let's see. So while trying DOM XSS payload, you might want to keep in mind that you are injecting inside the JavaScript. And so yeah, I don't think it's on this parameter here. Let's check out other parameters. To automate this, you can also use DOM invader here. So let's try that for a while, right? Like if you are automating it, and if you are checking out like, so yeah, because we are using location.search and the sync is in document.write, and if you check out what kind of JavaScripts are getting loaded, you would see that here. Like, you can also check it in the source code, but you can also check it here. And let's see what kind of JavaScripts are being used. So there is lab header, that's the common for everyone, so I don't think there can be anything. And apart from that, are we getting something here in the script tag? So I don't think we are getting anything here. And yeah, in the inspect tab, you can simply use inspect DOM invader, and so to automatically test it, you can just use inject URL parameters. So it will inject on all the URLs, right? So let's say this is it, and this is the canary. So you can try putting this canary everywhere, right? And for example, you can try to put the canary here, because post ID is giving us error, right? So yeah, it's not detecting anything so far at the moment. If you go on to the home section and you go to page source, you might be able to see some JavaScript loading, but this is just the lab header, right? And if you inject here and you inject inside the forms, injecting inside the forms. So when you go and search for like search parameter, yeah, so when I was testing it, when I was testing the search parameter, I wasn't sure that the XSS is here, but as you can see, our DOM invader has detected a sync here, that is particularly this term. And to exploit this, you can like basically use anything like to automate it completely. Let's try this out. Just click on exploit, and of course it's not gonna work because sometimes automation doesn't work, right? So to exploit it in a better way, let's try it out, what kind of payload we can use. And so if we are input here testing, and if we see our input that is testing, and we shall be also seeing this source code. So most of the time finding DOM XSS would require you to manually study and review all the source code. So here you can see there is JavaScript code here, and there is document.write img tag here going on with the search term and the query. So for this particular query, you're gonna read this, and if you can see here, the window.location.search.get, so this will take the search parameters value, and then it will write this particular thing, right? So in order to get an XSS here, what you'll have to do, guys, so let's see. So let's copy this, and hopefully you guys will be able to see this. So I'll just echo it, yeah. So I'll just use this, and as you guys can see, this is the JavaScript that is getting wrote. In order to get a perfect XSS here, we'll have to use a double quote. So let's see. First, we'll have to use a double quote in our payload, and then we have to close this imgsrc tag, right, like this. But we also have one problem, that this is also getting wrote into the HTML DOM, right? So for that, we'll start another tag, and then let's say we start imgsrc, and then we'll use src equals to x, and on error equals to, let's say, alert document.cookie, and we don't have to close it here, but we would, because we need to close this, right? So after getting this closed, this will be automatically closed. This will be already added because it's gonna write this. So now we're gonna just copy this particular payload as we have correctly formed it. Let's try this payload here and check our console just to see if we can get an XSS. As you can see, the document.cookie has been alerted, and yeah, so this was the page, and if you check out the elements, what it has wrote, and if we check what happened with our payload here, so we can check search, and apart from that, also search, right? So this is what's executing, right? Search terms, we close the search terms here only, and then we started another IMG tag, and this was closed automatically by this, and we were able to exploit this because of the only reason, that is this particular script, right? Because this particular script was vulnerable, it was picking the query up from here using search params function and window.location.search source to get this, and it was using document.write, right? So it was just directly writing into the page, and that's why we were able to get DOM XSS here. So hopefully you guys learned something new today, and yeah, there were a lot of ways to actually exploit this. You could have directly also use this particular thing, that is this, and just use this and script, close the script tag, and just use a equals to just add this, so it will just balance the next page thing, and yeah, the result would have been same. Okay, thank you so much guys, have a great day. In next video we're gonna set up blind XSS hunters so we can find blind XSS, right? So must watch it, and cool. Thank you guys, bye. If you like this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks a lot, have a blast, bye.